Tremendous tariff on lumber and things as such, and yet we don't need their lumber. We have more lumber than they do. We don't need Canada's lumber.
Canada does not dump lumber into the United States, and we will continue to make the case that these current and proposed duties are unjustified.
Here's a quiet truth about American houses. A lot of their bones are foreign. On January 23, 2025, Donald Trump said, "We don't need their lumber. We have our own forests." It's a clean line.
Fundamentally, what we need to do is we need to buy more Canadian. We need to help our workers in the sector. We need to be there for the softwood lumber industry, and a company like here today is showing that's the case.
But the studs in many new homes still start life in Canada. Roughly a quarter of the softwood America uses is imported from north of the border. And in 2025, that supply got more expensive. Long-running duties plus a new national security tariff plan.
New tariffs announced last month are now in effect. They include a global tariff on 10% of all softwood lumber and timber entering the U.S.
Jolted prices and slowed orders. Builders estimate the policy mix added around $10,000 to a typical new home. So who really pays? The mill towns, the contractors, or first-time buyers? Softwood lumber is the framing wood that holds up most American houses. For decades, the United States and Canada have fought over how it's traded. American mills say some Canadian producers get subsidies through public timber pricing and sell wood too cheaply. Canada denies that and points to tight stumpage fees and currency swings. The fight has cycled through 5 major softwood lumber disputes since the 1980s, with duties rising and falling as cases get reviewed. In 2017, during Trump's first term, Washington imposed anti-dumping and countervailing duties on many Canadian mills. Those rates move with annual reviews, but in 2024, the combined average landed near the mid-teens. In late 2025, the White House added a separate step, a national security action under Section 232. Which lets a president restrict imports if they are judged to harm U.S. security or industrial capacity. Wood products from lumber to cabinets were included at different rates. Why does this matter? Because the United States still uses more framing wood than it makes. Canada typically covers about a quarter of our demand, moving boards by rail into the upper Midwest, the Northeast, and the Mountain West. When that supply gets costlier or slower, builders don't switch overnight. New sawmills take years, not months, to reach full output, and fires, beetles, and curtailments have already trimmed capacity in parts of British Columbia. The result is familiar to anyone who tried to build during the pandemic. More price swings, cautious ordering, and projects pushed a few weeks or months down the calendar. The claim that America doesn't need Canadian lumber clashes with how housing actually gets built. In the near term, the United States cannot fully replace Canadian softwood without higher prices or slower schedules. Canada isn't a niche supplier. It consistently fills about a quarter of U.S. demand, feeding framing crews in regions where domestic mills can't cover everything. When policy raises the cost of that stream, through trade case duties or a national security tariff, import prices rise first, then wholesalers and builders pass a share downstream. Domestic mills do gain margin and may add shifts, but sawmill investments are lumpy and slow. It takes years to expand capacity, secure timber, and trains. Labor. Meanwhile, projects are bid today. Lenders lock loans today, and homeowners need keys this year. That timing mismatch explains why costs show up for buyers before new American capacity can meaningfully offset supply. None of this means tariffs have zero long-term benefit. They can stabilize a strategically important industry. But in the first 1 to 3 years, the practical effect is straightforward: fewer import options, tighter inventories, and a higher delivered cost. Meet a mid-sized builder in Columbus, Ohio. 90 homes a year, mostly starter and move-up models. In February 2025, they priced a new 119,950 square foot plan with a framing package quoted at $28,400. By June, the same package came back at $31,900. The vendor's note blamed a mix of factors: annual duty rate changes at key Canadian mills, hedging because futures were jumpy, and talk of a new national security tariff schedule for wood products. The builder didn't pay a tariff line on their invoice. They paid a higher delivered price, plus a longer lead time on SPF studs and certain engineered members. Their superintendent responded with a playbook you'll hear across the country. First, value engineer the plan. Tighten spans, swap a few LVL beams, and convert one bump out to a straight wall. Second, call 3 yards instead of 2, and accept mixed species in non-visible areas. Third, resequence. Pour slabs and frame starts, so crews don't sit idle when a truck slips 2 days. Even after the tweaks, the total materials tab on that model rose close to $10,000. Once cabinets, doors, and trim were repriced under the broader wood products tariff umbrella. On a 30-year mortgage at roughly mid-6% rates, that's around $60–75 per month added to the payment, depending on down payment and taxes. Now zoom out. In March and April 2025, national data showed single-family starts dipping. Economists cited several drivers: rates, labor, and materials volatility. Tariff news doesn't cause every slowdown, but it adds uncertainty exactly where developers hate it: the bid phase. When quotes are only good for 7 days and truck ETAs wobble, small builders pad contingencies or delay starts. That's how a policy shock becomes a scheduling shock, and eventually a price shock for the buyer signing in the sales office. There's a counterpoint worth stating. Some industry groups argue lumber's share of a home's total cost is modest, and late summer 2025 saw spot prices cool from an August pop. Both are true and still compatible with the case study. A $3,500 swing in framing plus a few thousand in finished wood can move a deal at the margin for a first-time buyer. And a temporary spot dip doesn't reverse contractual quotes that suppliers set when risk was highest. If this kind of plain English breakdown is useful, tap like and subscribe to our channel. We cover how policies and supply chains show up in real prices, mortgages, materials, and monthly bills. Drop a comment with where you're building or buying and what you're seeing on quotes this season. And if you want deeper dives, like how engineered wood or steel studs compare on cost and lead times, tell us which topics to tackle next. Your questions help us choose the next investigation. Construction doesn't buy lumber in a vacuum. When duties and tariffs lift costs on softwood and adjacent wood products such as cabinets and furniture, budget pressure ripples through entire project scopes. A custom kitchen bid that once held for 30 days might now be price on arrival because importers don't know exactly which lot clears customs or at what tariff rate. Remodelers stretch schedules to keep clients living at home longer, swapping in partial demos and temporary countertops. Commercial contractors, meanwhile, reassess wood-framed multifamily plans and consider steel or concrete on mid-rise jobs, even if the switch raises other line items. Regional impacts vary. The upper Midwest and Northeast rely heavily on Canadian SPF by rail. The U.S. South leans more on domestic southern yellow pine and may be cushioned, though not immune, because national buyers arbitrage supply. Ports matter too. If importers shift to Europe or South America to replace some Canadian volume, transit times and logistics risk rise. That can strain working capital for distributors who must carry inventory longer. Winners and losers emerge quickly. Domestic mills with available fiber and labor enjoy better pricing power and may add overtime. Rail carriers and trucking firms benefit from heavier repositioning moves. On the other side, downstream fabricators, truss plants, cabinet shops, flooring installers face squeeze conditions. Customers resist surcharges, but inputs jump. Some pass costs forward. Others trim margins or delay equipment purchases. For households, the most visible effect is fewer entry-level homes and more value-engineered plans. Appraisals can lag rapid materials inflation, complicating financing for buyers who need every dollar to line up. And even when spot lumber prices ease, the sticky parts of a budget, labor, logistics, and the risk premia baked into supplier quotes can take months to unwind. The policy goal may be to rebuild U.S. capacity, but until new sawmills spin up and forests are thinned sustainably, the near-term experience for many buyers is simpler: higher allowances, tighter selections, and longer waits. This story echoes earlier rounds. The first softwood lumber agreement in 1996 tried to cap Canadian shipments. A 2006 deal reset the rules until it expired in 2015. After that, trade cases resumed, and in 2017 the U.S. imposed anti-dumping and countervailing duties on many Canadian producers. Pandemic demand in 2020-2021 sent lumber futures to wild highs, then crashing back, teaching builders to distrust any single price snapshot. In 2024, the average combined duty level moved into the mid-teens after annual reviews, and in late 2025, a separate Section 232 action added a new tariff layer to a wider set of wood products. Each cycle promised stability. Each also produced side effects: investment in the U.S. South, curtailments in parts of British Columbia, and periodic price surges that hit buyers months after headlines. The lesson? Policy resolves disputes slowly. Markets react fast. What happens next depends on three clocks. First, policy. Duty rates get reviewed annually, and the Section 232 Wood Products Plan is slated to phase in across categories into 2026 unless revised. Negotiations could carve out exemptions or adjust tiers, but those talks tend to move at legal speed, not construction speed. Second, capacity. A new or expanded sawmill typically needs 18 to 36 months to reach steady output, plus fiber agreements and workforce. The U.S. South has the best odds of near-term gains, yet staffing and trucking remain constraints. Third, demand. Mortgage rates and household formation set the floor for how many studs the market needs. If rates ease into 2026, pent-up buyers could meet tighter inventories, reinforcing price pressure. Keep an eye on builder confidence surveys, framing lumber dashboards, and any signal that Canadian shipments are rerouting through alternative categories. Those are your early warnings for the next price swing. If you're buying or building in the next year, treat lumber like a moving target rather than a fixed number on a spreadsheet. Ask your builder or GC to show how they priced framing and engineered wood, and whether the quote includes an escalation clause tied to published indexes. If you're pushing the budget edge, consider small plan edits that cut waste, straight walls over bump outs, simpler roof lines, and standardized window sizes. For remodels, lock the cabinet package early and get 2 comparable alternates in writing. Where timing is flexible, you can phase. Get the shell up now, finish closets, built-ins, and decking after move-in when lead times settle. If you have choices on location, note that regions with stronger domestic supply may see steadier quotes, though national buyers blur those differences. Finally, remember that headline price dips don't instantly lower bids. Suppliers unwind risk slowly. Patience and good paperwork are worth real money. Thanks for watching. If this helped you see how policy shows up in your monthly payment, hit subscribe to our channel and share this with someone pricing a build or remodel. Did tariffs strengthen a vital industry, or just make your project harder this year? Tell us what you're seeing on quotes, delays, and substitutions.